Hey, thanks for joining us on the Fast Break. Chill Rob here, along with G Money. We call him G Money because he's an accountant. How you doing on this Sunday, G Money?
Just fine and dandy.
G Money, I'll tell you who's not doing fine and dandy right now. JLin and his fans. I don't want to show the video. We don't have to anymore. He goes up for a layup. He comes down.
Don't go! Come back! Don't leave me!
All right, seriously, I haven't been this sad about an injury since Yao Ming broke his leg. JLin done for the year. Done for the year.
And possibly his whole career.
I mean, let's okay. Don't even say that right now. But just give me your initial reaction to this, because at first we thought it might have been an ACL, which is also a season-ending injury, but not as bad as what he had, which was a ruptured patella tendon.
Yeah, as a Nets fan, I realized that even though the Nets, nobody picked the Nets to be in the playoffs, but with JLin, I thought that we had a pretty good shot for maybe 35 to 40 wins this season. Maybe 35, probably the max, but that's still good enough to make the playoffs in the East. But right now, this whole season's up in the air. Hopefully we can still make the playoffs, but I think I'm looking at probably like 20 to 25 wins at this point.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. With JLin, I mean, I was thinking this is a team that could, even get to maybe 35 to 40 if things actually clicked and Karis LeVert came along, because they do have some role player pieces. It was a team which I felt pretty confident even before the season started in saying they would finish the year with more wins than New York Knicks. And you know what? Based on what I've seen so far, even without JLin, I think they could win more than the New York Knicks. We'll get back to that in a second. But first, let's talk a little bit more about the injury. The ruptured patella tendon. If people have been following JLin's Twitter, he had surgery. Kenny Atkinson was with him at the hospital. The Nets sent out a little press release saying he's out for the year, but he is expected to make a full recovery. In their words, a full recovery. But if you look at some of the other athletes who have suffered it, Victor Cruz had it, was never the same. Antonio McDyess had it. I don't think he was ever the same. Some athletes have recovered. Jimmy Graham recovered. Morris Claiborne was not very good anyway when he was with the Cowboys, and I think he ruptured his. He's with the Jets now. I think he's doing all right. And for a player who depends on his, a lot of his game is based on his speed, his quick first step, there's a big question mark as to whether or not JLin is JLin when 2018 to 2019 comes around.
Well, you can only hope, but it really doesn't look good for him. I mean, he's had a history of injuries, not this particular injury, but he has a history of sitting out games. Last year, he sat out about like 30 or 40 games. I think he only played 30 or 40 games. So this season, he didn't even get through one game. So it's a little tough to come back from injury after injury. So it's not looking good for Jeremy. I pray for him. I wish him the best. But right now, it looks like the Brooklyn Nets need to look elsewhere for some production. And starting with Karis LeVert, I think he's gonna have a chance to develop much quicker than he already has. He's got a chance for a lot of playing time. Tamara Carroll, Alan Crabb needs to step up. All types of role players, which would be role players on other teams, need to step up to be stars and stars of the team. And of course, my man D'Angelo Russell is. I predict that D'Angelo Russell will have an all-star season, so he might be able to take the Nets far. They did win, right? They did win the second game without JLin against Orlando, with D'Angelo Russell making some big shots. So the future still looks bright for Brooklyn, just not as bright as before.
And before we get to the rest of the Nets, just talk about how big a loss of this is for the team. JLin was what Kenny Atkinson says was a sort of a player coach on the floor. Being a 29-year-old vet, he was sort of D'Angelo Russell's mentor. And I know you have some strong feelings about being D'Angelo Russell's mentor, but apparently they were getting along well. Kenny Atkinson thinks he had a good influence. He brings a certain work ethic, culture, leadership to the team, things that he can probably still provide some of, even if he's not on the floor. First off, how big of a how much will the Nets miss him, and what can he still provide, even though he won't be seeing the floor for the rest of the 81 games? We're now 79 games left in the year.
Well, the Nets are obviously going to miss him, his presence on the floor, but maybe his presence in the locker room might make up for it a little bit. Apparently, a lot of guys like him. A lot of guys go to him for advice on what to do in certain situations. But I think, D'Angelo Russell is the guy right now on the court that everybody's got to turn to right now. So Jeremy Lin might be still mentoring off the court. Maybe he sees some situations in which people on the floor can't see. But D'Angelo Russell is still going to have to be the journal on the floor, and I have confidence that he will step up and be the star, the franchise player that he was brought here to be.
And I love what Kenny Atkinson said about how when he visited JLin at the hospital, JLin's first thought was about the team. He said one of the first things Lin told him was, hey, listen, I think we're better equipped this year. We have more depth. So even in his darkest, this may very well be the darkest moment of his career, because this was supposed to be a season where I think both he and D'Angelo Russell could have gone average around 20 points, 5 assists apiece, somewhere in that neighborhood. And to have it all disappear in basically 3/4 of the first game, for him to still be thinking about the team, really speaks to the character of one Jeremy Lin, and why, people like me love the guy, even though clearly, he's not a superstar.
Well, he's a very likable guy. Obviously he's done everything he's been on. If I remember correctly, most of his teammates have nothing but good things to say about him, right? So there's always a few that
except Carmelo Anthony.
Maybe a little bit jealous, but I wouldn't name any names. All right, I'm not gonna name any names, but I'm just saying that for the most part, Jeremy Lin has been an honorable teammate on and off the court. That's why everybody likes him. It's a devastating blow to the Brooklyn Nets season, but not all hope is lost for this season. I'm still hopeful for this season for the Nets team as a whole.
I have to agree. They actually won again today against the Atlanta Hawks. Their record now 2-1. D'Angelo Russell almost had himself a triple-double, 16 points, 10 dimes, 7 rebounds. Nets winning by 12. I got to tell you, when I look at the roster, these aren't superstar names. These aren't guys that are going to get big contracts. They're not going to win any awards beyond all defense teams or all NBA teams. But when you look at the roster, they got some guys who can play. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, versatile, gives you a lot of effort, and that's the theme. DeMar Carroll, not the most skilled guy, but he could do a lot of different things. High effort guy. Mozgov is at the worst average NBA center, claws up the lane, gets you some boards, blocks some shots. We talk about D'Angelo Russell. You think he's a budding star? I don't think he's that good, but I can acknowledge that he's at the least
going to be an all-star one of these days. Not this year or next year, but he's going to be an all-star.
It wouldn't surprise me if he evolves into an all-star, and maybe JLin going down forces him to evolve and grow faster. Karis LeVert, I gotta say, he looked impressive again today. 16 points, 6 boards, 4 assists, 3 steals. He's got great length. Trevor Booker, another one of those hustle guys who he can pass, rebound, score a little bit. Jared Allen, obviously, is still early. Alan Crabb, who, I think he's already 10 times better than Tim Hardaway Jr. Why did the Knicks throw $71 million at this guy? 20 points today off the bench, 5 rebounds, efficient, 7 for 12. There's no stars, but I think these guys, they're not terrible. They're not going to be the worst team in the league. I don't think they might. I don't think they'll be bottom 3.
Do you think the Nets have a chance to make the playoffs this year?
Absolutely not. No.
They've just beaten 2 of the teams that you thought are making the playoffs, right? Orlando and Atlanta. They just beat them both.
Atlanta without Paul Millsap and Dwight Howard was.
You don't
not
think
very,
Atlanta's making the playoffs? I think Atlanta could have a shot at the playoffs.
if you want them to be 8, 9, or 10, the Nets have to win close to 40 games.
No, I think 35 might do it. I think 35 might actually sneak into the playoffs in the East.
So let's take a look at the standings from the Eastern Conference from last year. All right, you're kind of there. The Bulls made the playoffs with 41 wins at the 8th seed. Miami, they were tied, so also 41. Pistons, 10th seed with 37 wins. Hornets, 11th seed with 36 wins.
There you go. So there's not out of the realm of possibility that 35 wins this season can make the playoffs. I mean, the East obviously is significantly weaker. I mean, everybody's going out west. You got the top maybe two or three teams locked in, and the rest is fighting for basically. I would say after probably the 4th seed, the 5th seed, 6th seed, 7th seed, 8th seed, is probably going to win a round.
Well, I think you can say Cleveland, Toronto, Washington,
and
Boston, and Milwaukee are locks.
Right. They're going to probably win 50 or more games, right? Those teams.
In the neighborhood. I mean, somewhere around. Oh, right. Maybe not Boston anymore, but.
I think Boston still with Kyrie is still.
But Cleveland, Washington, Milwaukee, if you want to tell me, and Washington, you want to tell me they'll be at 50 or around there? Yeah.
They're going to win above 50 games. Probably Boston around, I would say around 50. I'll give them around 50 wins too. Now, the rest of the East is probably going to be around 40-something, and the bottom feeders are probably going to be around 30-something. So I think 35 will make the playoffs in the East with the 8th seed. So I'm not saying the Nets are going to be there, but hey, the way the Nets are built is they have nobody to protect the middle. That's a guarantee, right? They need to improve on their defense in the paint.
You mean Mozgov's not good enough?
Yeah, but he's not going to play 40 minutes a game. He's going to play
Jared Allen?
He's going to be a good defensive player. But I'm just saying, as a whole, the Nets are not a good defensive team. So they're going to give up a lot of points, but they can also score a lot of points by stretching the floor. Mozgov is working on his 3-pointers, right? So he can hit a couple of threes.
What's up with all these setters? Dwight Howard wants to shoot threes now too. What's up with these? All these setters want to shoot threes now.
First of all, what happened with Dwight Howard's threat that he was going to shoot threes? I haven't seen any that he's shooting these days.
He said he wanted to. He was going to.
Yeah, right. All these centers say they want to, and they actually follow through with it. I haven't seen Dwight. Dwight Howard might be the only true center at this point who doesn't shoot threes. I mean, Brook Lopez last season, he's continuing to shoot threes. Mozgov last season didn't shoot any threes, I don't think, and then this season Kenny Atkinson's popping them out there and he's making them. So these centers all of a sudden can shoot some threes, stretch the floor a little bit. So the Nets are a good 3-point shooting team with Alan Crabb, DeMar Carroll. Now Mozgov is shooting threes. You got all these guards, D'Angelo Russell, Caris LeVert. They can all pop out to shoot the three. They can score a lot of points. The Nets. So don't count them out just yet. They're a good offensive. I think they're not great, but good, decent offensive team. Not great defensively, so they have to work on that if they want to have any shot at 35 wins.
I do have to confess that I think they'll be better than people will believe, and I think at the end of the day, people will be saying, "Hey, if Jeremy Lin was healthy, they could have made the playoffs." And I think at the end of the season, that's what people will be saying. If Jeremy Lin was healthy, maybe they could have made it.
They were saying that last year. If Jeremy Lin was healthy, they will probably win 30-something wins. They will probably win 30-something games. So it all depends on Jeremy. It was depending on Jeremy this year. Unfortunately, this thing happened where this season, but the season's not a wash yet. I'm still hopeful for this season. They still got some young players. It's still rebuilding. Kenny Atkinson's a good coach, and Sean Marks. Gotta say, the GM did a great job this offseason, and to turn around from the disaster of the last 5 years under GM Billy King, who we don't need to talk about him, but Sean Marks really turned this franchise around from being basically with no draft picks at all, no future, into something that Nets fans can be very proud of.
Well, let's look at JLin's future. I mean, the Nets aren't cutting ties with him, right? He got one more year left on the deal.
Well, he's on a player option, so he's probably going to pick up that option.
Yeah. I mean, he's not going to drop the option, when he comes back next year when it's unknown. But I mean, we're getting pretty close to make or break time, right? I mean, one more serious season-ending injury, he could be out of the league. If he shows up next year and doesn't look like his old self, he could be out of the league. I mean, I hate to say it because he's only 29, 30 years old, and I've loved every single second of the ride, beginning all the way back in New York City, Valentine's Day, 2012 or whatever it was. But we could. What are you doing?
I'm just getting my charger. I got to continue.
But the
charging my iPad.
We could be nearing the end. I hate to say it, but we could be in the final chapters or final chapter of the Jeremy Lin career, depending on how he comes back from this injury. He might have next year. I mean, I thought this was a breakout year. Next year could very well be do or die year.
Yeah, I mean, it's nearing the end for Jeremy. He's injury prone, so it's not like this is his first, second, third injury. He's been nicked here, nicked there. I mean, it's hard to come back from injury after injury. It's going to be tough for him. I know he's worked very hard. I know he was devastated. You can see the look on his face when he realized something was wrong. Basically, the look on his face said it all when he went down with that injury. You feel bad for him. I know he's worked very hard to get to this point. Unfortunately, somebody upstairs has, I guess, better plans for him.
I certainly hope this is not the end. I'm not ready for the Joe Chi era just yet in Houston. I can't just live with that.
Joe Chi might be the next Jeremy Lin. You never know. Mike D'Antoni, hey, he was a coach that brought Jeremy Lin into the spotlight. Maybe he'll do the same for Mr. Chi.
Hey, he can shoot the three. He's a center who can shoot threes.
Well, there you go. I mean, Mike D'Antoni has a history of people popping off the end of his bench, making them stars. So maybe he'll do the same thing.
But I mean, it just can't end this way, though. I just can't imagine it. It's gonna be a long road back. Maybe this is good for him. Maybe this will teach him. You're gonna have to evolve your game where you just can't be just with reckless abandon. Even though I don't know how he can turn it off. It's in his DNA. This is how he's been playing all his life, just with reckless abandon, driving to the hoop, and maybe you got to be a little bit more like Steve Nash and pull up a little more instead of trying to take it all the way.
Well, I mean, if you watch the play, he wasn't even touched. So I don't know how that was a freak accident. Probably. I mean, you could tell that nobody touched him, and he still came up with this gruesome injury. So I mean, he's not Russell Westbrook. He can't be playing, reckless like that. I agree with that. So maybe he'll have to evolve. I mean, obviously he's not that tall, so he has to use his speed. If his speed is gone, I don't know how else he can evolve his game. I mean, there's just not many options for him. He can't just post up and power people over. So it's not. His game is based on speed, based on agility, based on athleticism, driving to the paint. And if you can't have that, then I don't know how he can evolve his game.
Well, I mean, Jeremy Lin has always been the underdog story. He's always been the guy that was almost on the edge, about to be washed out of the league, if not for a lucky lockout season where he got some playing time. And I hope he has one more underdog chapter left in him, because this is not the way I want to go out. I don't want to talk about Jeremy Lin's career next year and have it be sort of the recap of his career. I pray if I just take my patella tendon, I don't need it. Just take it and put it in, brother Lin. Just do it.
Look, I realize that the Lin fans are devastated, but this could be a blessing in disguise.
Yes, give us Jeremy Lin fans some, give us the silver lining in this.
The silver lining is he gets. I mean, it's a blessing in disguise in this sense. He obviously, if he was going to continue to play this way, I mean, it was just going to be this is not the way to go out. I believe Jeremy Lin has one more push in him. And I believe the Nets are going to give him that opportunity. If it was on some other team, maybe not. But the Nets, I believe, are definitely going to give him the opportunity. I think Kenny Atkinson, as a coach, obviously he cares a lot about him. He cares about his well-being. I think the Nets are going to give every single opportunity they can for him to recover from this injury and have one last hurrah. And I believe he's going to make a full recovery. He's going to help the Nets. When the Nets eventually make the playoffs, I guarantee you that Jeremy Lin will be on this team.
I like to hear that. That is the way to go out. Act 1, Linsanity. Act 2 in Houston. Act 3, which was the horrific run in LA. Act 4, the comeback in Charlotte. Act 5, beginning of the net career and the downfall. And let the final act be leading the Nets to a playoffs. Obviously, they're going to get swept in the first round, but whatever. It's going to feel like they won the championship.
Well, when the Nets actually do make the playoffs, hopefully LeBron James is not with Cleveland anymore. Hopefully, I guess, look, anything can happen. I believe the Nets are going to make the playoffs with Jeremy Lin on the team. Maybe next year. Maybe not this year. Maybe next year or the year after. Maybe they'll sign Jeremy Lin to a one-year contract after that. Who knows? But bottom line is the Nets' future, and Jeremy Lin is going to be in the Nets' future plans.
I think he could be an assistant coach if he wants to when it's all said and done.
Well, hopefully later rather than sooner, right?
Well, there you have it. We'll check back in a few weeks. Hopefully we got some news to talk about. Maybe JLin's recovery. Ets the Knicks and Nets show us a little something. Maybe some other development. Maybe they change the way they play. Or maybe it's the same exact thing. We'll just talk about how much the Nets are taking people by surprise and how much the Knicks are just, stuck in a state of mediocrity for God knows how long. Anyway, thanks for running the fast break with us. We'll catch you next week. Peace. We're out of here.